Welcome everyone to the first episode of the Fitzness Academy Podcast. I am definitely the first person to be doing a podcast ever. I've created it myself with all the ideas in my own mind. Of course, I'm only joking. Inspiration of everyone else. However, my first guest, I wanted to make sure that I had a very good guest to start. However, Arnold Schwarzenegger wasn't available, unfortunately, so I've gone with Josh. Now, welcome, Josh, to the Fitzness Academy Podcast. Thank you for joining, mate. How are you?
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me, mate. It's a pleasure to be on your first ever podcast.
Good. Obviously, like I said, I've tried many other guests. Obviously, they weren't available, so I've gone down to you. You're literally last on my list. No, I'm only joking.
That's fine, mate. That's fine.
All right, mate. Just starting off. New thing we're starting. Obviously, new podcast, new start, new ideas. Tell me a joke. Try and make me laugh.
So I literally just Googled this one 2 minutes ago. What is red and bad for your teeth?
Fire truck.
A brick.
So bad. That is horrendous, but a great start. Great start.
I've got another one. I've got one more.
Okay, I'll give you a chance to rectify.
Why did Susie fall off the swing?
She's too fat.
She's got no arms.
Wow.
It's horrible, isn't it?
That was horrendous, but we'll get started because I think everyone's clicked off already. Everyone's only joking. Okay, we'll get started, pal. So it's not all about fitness or fitness. It's not all about people who are involved in the industry. I'm going to be getting everyone from every walks of life, motivational people, all sorts. So obviously, I think it would be good to start with fitness, of course. Being fitness influencer, can you imagine? I'm actually not fitness. I don't even know why I said that. But being in the fitness industry, I thought it was a good start. So, Joshua, tell us a little bit about yourself, mate. Obviously, I know exactly who you are. I know from many conversations at the gym, I know exactly what body fat percentage you were on the 15th of March, 2019. No, obviously, I'm joking, but tell us a little bit about you, mate.
So I'm Joshua Mark, I go by business name. I'm a personal trainer, being qualified
description.
Instagram in the description. Been qualified a good few years now, about 4 or 5 years. Started off as a level 2. I actually got into PT because I was a cyclist and I wanted to teach people how to cycle. And
Wiggins on the podcast, first episode. Bradley Wiggins, go on.
Yeah, exactly, man. And then I started eating a vegan diet, got called skinny, and I was very skinny. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to be the biggest vegan you've ever seen in your life. And started the gym, fell in love with bodybuilding, became a level 3 PT, and wanted to share that love with others.
Wow, actually, that's amazing. I actually didn't realize that first bit, so I love that. Being the biggest bodybuilder, absolutely love that. I obviously know exactly how it is to be the biggest bodybuilder in the entire world. One, not being a bodybuilder, and two, absolutely lifting absolute hammers in the gym. So, actually love that story. So we're going to get a bit more into your story. Obviously, today's about bodybuilding. But if you could, for people who don't know, if you can describe bodybuilding in one short sentence, please give it your best shot. What would you say?
The epitome of dedication, the sport of intertwining physical training, science, nutrition, and presenting that in a creative and artistic way.
Mate, I absolutely love that. That's literally got me hairs on edge.
Yeah, they're inspirational, man.
I absolutely love that, mate. And what made you, for example, like you said, you were a cyclist. When you said, right, I want to be a professional cyclist, riding up the Arc de Triomphe. That was a good one. Good start. Riding up, obviously, tallest mountains in the Tour de France, and then saying, nah, actually, I want to be a bodybuilder. What made that change?
Yeah, man. I think, first of all, I've always had that thing in me to pursue some form of fitness. And what I love about fitness is not necessarily the sport. It's pushing your mind past that boundary where the body doesn't want to go there. But you mentally, you push that barrier more and more and more. And that's what I loved about cycling, because you get to a point where, you know, you're up this massive hill and everything's telling you, nah, just stop, mate, just stop, just, you know, take a break. And you push it and you achieve something mentally, not just physically, you know. And I got to a point where I didn't really like how I was looking. I was very thin. I've always looked quite young, and it made me look even younger. And people would give snide comments, you know. I mean, it comes from insecurity, you know. I didn't want to be skinny. And I just turned vegan at the time. And I was thinking, oh, man, there's no vegan bodybuilders. Like, you can't build muscle being vegan. What am I going to do? Am I going to have to go back to eating meat? And what am I going to sacrifice, you know, what my ethics? Or what am I going to do? So I started researching vegan bodybuilders, and I was surprised to see there's actually a hell of a lot of vegan bodybuilders, and it can be done. Because I didn't think you could get protein on the vegan diet when I first went vegan, because I didn't care. You know what I mean? So then I was like, right, sign myself up to the gym. I'm going to put on a little bit of muscle, get a bit bigger. Within months of starting the gym, I just blew up. It was like my body genetically just wanted to grow muscle. People started giving me comments. It gave me more confidence. And I realized that with lifting weights, it's similar to the cycling, in that, you know, you're pushing the mind past that boundary to push the body to achieve something. And that's what resonated with me and made me fall in love with bodybuilding. Then I got into the actual bodybuilding side, you know, the presentation, the stage presence, and just fell in love with it, man.
I absolutely love that. That's actually such a good story. Rather than say, "Cool, I saw Arno in the magazine the other day, and I was like, cool, he looks all right, and I'll start bodybuilding. I'll buy myself a 50 pound or $50 bag of protein powder, and I'm gonna look like Arnie in 4 weeks."
Yeah.
But no, I actually really love that story. That's really good. I'm actually really interested, because obviously this is not going to be a podcast where I'm just like, oh, so Josh, how are you doing in bodybuilding? How are you? Yes, mate. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I like that. Okay. Next question. Right. Like this. No. So actually, I'm really intrigued to actually know, why was it purely ethical, or did you like, oh, you know, I'm not feeling too good on the meat, so you decided to go completely, I'm going to say vegan, because in my personal opinion, vegan is very different to plant-based, because obviously you've got so many different sort of people who are eating, like you mentioned, obviously in your Instagram story, check it out in the description below, the other day, which was sort of like how raw vegans are sort of a little bit too much in some sense, because obviously, yeah, in the ethical side, but then obviously physically they're not going to be very, very healthy. So explain to me very, very quickly, how come you sort of decided to go vegan?
So it was ethical reasons, man. I was at college studying music actually at the time, and I was friends with this girl who was vegan, and I always used to go in and get a tuna pita every single day, or panini, tuna and cheese panini every single day, and I loved it, man. And I noticed she wasn't ever eating any meat, and I'm like, oh, do you not eat meat or fish or anything, you know? I always had some like fancy ass salad and crazy meals, and I'm like, that was pretty good. And then she was like, yeah, I'm vegan, and I was like, what's a vegan? So from there, I was like, you know what, I'm going to go vegetarian. So, well, I went pescatarian first. So I still kept my tuna paninis in, cut out meat, did that for maybe a few weeks, few months. Then finally, I remember the day I didn't ask for that tuna panini, and I was like, right, this is going serious now. Was vegetarian for a couple of years, literally about 2 years, and then I was with the goal to eventually be vegan. But I kind of made an excuse up to myself, you know, that but cheese and you know and that, and I thought, you know what, right, today's a day, I'm just going to go vegan and try it. And it was for ethical reasons, man, because she told me obviously all the stuff that goes on, and I was just like, yo, damn, like I didn't know the animals had to suffer like that. And yeah, ethical reasons, bro. I mean, now I wouldn't really say I'm vegan, because even though I do care about the ethics, I rarely talk about it. I'm not the best activist. I've slipped up a few times by buying, you know, animal products by accident without even realizing, which, you know, we're all human. I've had milk by accident in products which are just hidden. Never had meat by accident, that I think anyway. But yeah, it's just not my mission to turn everybody vegan, man, unfortunately. I just do it because I feel good eating a plant-based diet and reducing my carbon footprint.
That's actually proper respectful, because I like how you actually said how you do it yourself, but obviously you're not trying to push it out there. I think a lot of people, a lot of the time, get angry at people they don't even know because obviously they're not vegan. It's like, well, you're not going to change them by shouting down their throats, are you? So I actually think, for me personally, I think actually, I think I can easily say about 50% of the population minimum has watched a certain documentary, which I think we all know exactly which one that is, on Netflix, called Game Changers. And I think everyone kind of took that in a direct 110%. This is the absolute end all. And me actually studying sports and exercise science, like I mentioned a few times, obviously I'm going down the strength and conditioning route, but you do actually learn that a lot of times in the industry, they're going to be people, obviously, they've probably made a lot of money off that documentary, but I would actually say that in some parts it's good, obviously, because they explain obviously why they don't, but then sometimes it's just obviously shoving it down your throat. So I actually really respect how you actually don't do that. But then, like, I wouldn't crucify you because you've accidentally bought sort of milk products before. I think there's so much stuff in, you go down to local supermarket and you're like, oh, I want to try that. And like, oh, this looks good. And then, naturally you don't look, see if it's got milk in, obviously. And obviously vegan is probably the very, very extent of what diets look like. Obviously you talk about, I'm not going to say rubbish, but obviously the different forms of diets, like sort of ketosis and all that stuff. And then you're like, well, vegan's the same thing. And I don't think it is at all, because I think vegan,
it's a lifestyle.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a diet. I wouldn't say I have a vegan diet or you have a vegan diet. I don't have a vegan diet. Or you have a vegan diet, but I would say that it's a lifestyle, because at the end of the day, like a lot of people say, it's not all about the training, it's about the eating afterwards. And I think that's what we're going to get into now. So going with the next one, which is, what do you think makes up the bodybuilding? Like, I'm going to say a lifestyle. We're going to have a little bit conversation about what it is as a sport, because I actually do believe it is a sport to a certain extent, but we'll get into that in a bit. But what do you think, very, very quickly, is the sort of the lifestyle of a bodybuilder, whether that be professional or amateur or trying to get to professional?
It's a very isolated sport, man. It's a very individual, lonely sport. I mean, I'm nowhere near professional or even amateur. I just dream of one day doing that. So I'm, in the beginning phases of my bodybuilding journey. But to be the best, you have to be willing to sacrifice, social time. You have to, I've had to turn a lot of people away at many occasions, and it makes me look selfish. But I've got a dream. I've got a goal. I love my lifestyle, and I can achieve what I need to achieve if I'm allowing things to distract me. So, I have to wake up at 5 a.m. and eat a meal. I don't want to eat at 5 a.m. You have to get uncomfortable forcing food down you when you don't want to eat. I don't even eat for enjoyment anymore. I eat because I have to fuel my machine.
Yeah.
I don't eat for pleasure. Rarely. I eat because I have to eat for my mission.
You become a bit of a robot, don't you, in a certain extent? Because you're like, right, if I don't eat this, I'm not gonna be feeling as good. I'm not gonna have as much energy for the gym later. Because personally, I know that you train a little bit later in the day. Actually, advocate a lot of people doing their strength sessions in the evening or sort of mid morning. A lot of people, whether they've slept 8 hours or 4 hours, are going to be absolutely knackered in the morning. So, if that's going for a little run in the morning, that's fine. But I don't advocate doing it in the morning. People saying they get it done. It's just people doing it to do it. I think, like, with the standard where you're probably training at, it's not a question of, going in, doing a quick arm session, 1 hour, going to work, let's go. It's not like that. And I think I love what you said there with sort of the fact that you've had to turn people away, because myself, obviously, as some people know, Josh obviously know, I'm obviously trying to play cricket to the highest level possible. But that is obviously a very similar thing. I think whether you're a bodybuilder, you're a cricketer, obviously we're focusing on you, but obviously it's very similar, because when you want to get to a certain level, I think there has to be a bit of hardness about you and a bit of mental toughness to say, I'm not going to let that affect me. Because if you say, God, I wish I would have gone out and got absolutely sort of drunk off my head with I tried very, very hard not to say another word there. And you say, yeah, I'm not gonna go out and I'm not gonna sort of be the person that I want to be, and I'm gonna drink 50 pints or whatever. And you need to learn to say no. I'm gonna stay. I need to stay inside. I think there's with you, even if you don't have to train in the morning, you still have to wake up, eat those meals. I know for a fact that sort of if you're a bodybuilder, I've heard of the word intermittent fasting, and it absolutely drives me crazy. That's another topic of discussion, but it's a fact about eating. Either for me, I'm not looking to obviously be the biggest guy in the room, but I need energy for my job. I need energy all the time, and if I don't eat, I don't have energy. It's what the calories is, an energy source. So we're going to lead into the next question. Keeping with bodybuilding, obviously making sure that we branch off as much as possible. Like I mentioned before, would you consider, and why, bodybuilding should be considered a sport? Obviously, that's probably not made any sense at all. But obviously, do you think bodybuilding should be a sport, and why?
I think it definitely is a sport, but not in your typical sense. I mean, usually your sports are like team based. But I think the definition for me of sport, it's, first of all, it has to be physical and involve fitness, and it has to be competitive. Whereas bodybuilding is competitive and it is physical, but
sometimes more than others, actually. If you can actually argue about it, if you think about it, it's probably a little bit more difficult than some other sports out there. If you can sort of go to that extent, course. Obviously, we're not going to get into it. Obviously, not mention any names because we'll probably get amount of dislikes on this video. Then can't even say. But obviously, let's stick with what you were saying. Sorry to interrupt. Just wanted to sort of point that out. Sorry, carry on.
No, of course, mate. It's like it's such a hard sport, man. You're constantly under stress. It's the thing as well. It's not like with your, say, football training. Not saying footballers don't work hard at all, because they do. But you do your training, and that's it. Yeah, you still have to recover. But it's bodybuilding is a 24-hour thing. You have to go home. You have to plan your meals. It's planning your sleep, your supplementation, your whole routine. I think it focuses a little bit more. It's in on the other stuff. Do you know what I mean? It's 24 hours a day. But I think it combines a sport with an art as well. If you're doing it competitively, as you have got that presentation side of it where you have to learn routines.
Yeah, no point creating a fantastic package behind the scenes if you can't deliver it on the actual day. I suppose it's a little bit obviously that's why I think it should actually be. I'm actually an advocate to have it as a sport. Obviously, my next question, which I'll just say after this point, is the fact that it's very similar to dancing, if you like, because obviously you need to create this routine. Obviously, it's very different in terms of behind the scenes, but you train for one specific day. It's kind of like anyone in the Olympics, isn't it? Because you're kind of training for like however long your mesocycle is. Obviously, a mesocycle is probably like or a macrocycle is anything sort of from a month or 6 months, anything down to like a month, where obviously you plan out your sessions or your peaks and your troughs of wherever you're meant to perform. And then I think it's the same thing. Obviously, I think it just gets a bad rap because it's a little bit new. If you look at the amount of sports that have been in the Olympics, like running and swimming, of course, bodybuilding is not going to be considered just yet because obviously it's newer. It's obviously not new, but it's a lot newer than everything else. And I think that leads me on to my next question. Obviously, I've just thought about this now, but I don't think personally, although I think it should be a sport, I don't think it could be accepted at the Olympic level. Obviously because of the fact, obviously, we'll discuss this a bit more because there's actually a question that I wrote down, which I was really interested to obviously see your point of view of. Obviously, the use of performance-enhancing drugs in bodybuilding is pretty open. I think if it's not open, I think
very open.
Open your eyes a little bit more. Just rub your eyes up. No, but I think it, like you said, like to a certain level, I think like powerlifting, where you got through your natural and your sort of non-natural federations, I think that's a good idea, which obviously they do it to a certain extent. Obviously, the natural one is obviously not as big. Obviously, the Mr. Olympia and everything, but I think that what do you think about it? Do you think, obviously, like you obviously just mentioned before, whilst I was saying it, but Do you think it could make it in the Olympics?
No. And personally, I wouldn't really want it to be in the Olympics. I just don't think it'd suit, You've got all these like classic sports in there, and then you'll have these guys posing on the stage. It's that part of it is not physical, and the Olympics is about actively pursuing a sport there and then competing. Whereas, you're competing on a stage, but it's not that part of it's not the sport, And I wouldn't really want it to be that mainstream in that it's in the Olympics. I don't think it suits, and because of the enhancements and the drug use in order to allow it on there, you'd have to have
Make
vigorous
natural,
testing,
which I don't think would be possible, would it? That would be or then allow other people to take performance enhancing drugs, and it'll just be like a pharmacy in the Olympics. It's just like a pharmacy Olympic Games, and you're like, well, no one's natural. So obviously the younger generation's just not going to have any sort of role model to look up to. It's like, oh yeah, I want to be like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then you're going to be like, well, son, Arnold Schwarzenegger is a walking pharmacy. Obviously, absolute legend for what he did. But obviously, it's pretty open exactly what he was on, and obviously, it's pretty unachievable for people, obviously, who aren't willing to go on that. But obviously, leading to that next question, what is your opinion on the performance-enhancing drugs, both in bodybuilding and in life? Let's start with bodybuilding, because I think there's a very, very clear sort of divide between bodybuilding or taking performance-enhancing drugs of any sort for bodybuilding, and then for life, and then or in life, I would say. So what do you think about performance-enhancing drugs in bodybuilding? Because the whole reason, actually, team, because this podcast has come about, is actually because Josh actually said we should sit down and talk about this, because I did an Instagram story the other day, which said sort of, someone asked me a question about performance-enhancing drugs in a jokey manner, but obviously said it in a serious manner of what I thought. And I think I'm actually keen to see what Josh actually wanted to mention. So what's your thought, Joshua Mark?
So I agree with you, man. I mean, what you said on your story. Obviously, people here might not have seen that, but for bodybuilding, I like how it's open. Like the use of the drugs is open now. It's a lot more accepted, and there is no bodybuilding at the level we see without drug use. There isn't, and I like the fact that they are open enough to tell the followers that, look, this is what I'm taking. This is how I've got my physique to this level. Now, it doesn't mean you don't have to work hard. People have this ideology that, you just start shooting up some roids and the next day you're Mr. Olympia.
No hard work, just needles all the time.
Otherwise, everybody who takes steroids would be Mr. Olympia.
Yeah.
That's not the case. So in bodybuilding, I think it's acceptable. If first of all, it's a federation which allows it, and it's not a natural federation. Even in the natural federations, you get people taking, and it's so hard to detect. Like the drugs test, you can beat the drugs test with steroids. Well,
Lance Armstrong, classic example there, wasn't it? I mean, like sort of in that I think sticking with obviously that unnatural federation. Like I think myself and yourself are a big fan of Josh Bridgman. Does a lot of sort of open talks about what he does, and I think that's a good thing. And like I mentioned on my story, in case none of you have seen it, check out Instagram. How dare you not check out my Instagram? How dare you? No, I'm obviously joking, but check it out. Obviously, all details in the description. But I think that it has to be acceptable to a certain. So obviously, it needs to be sort of accepted to a certain point, because there's never ever if people stopped looking to the same level as Arnold Schwarzenegger did, obviously getting smaller. Obviously, the classic division is one that I'm pretty interested in. I like it a lot. Obviously, I think Chris Bumstead's package this year, if you haven't seen it, obviously I put a picture just there, is probably the best comparison that I've ever seen. Me personally, I don't know about you, in compared to what Arnold Schwarzenegger sort of was bringing to the table, because there was this, oh, he's too big, he's too sort of, he's holding too much water, and or sort of, or no, he's not big enough in his arms, and I think that was really, really good, because they're bringing back what it used to be. I think people were obviously too big, people were trying to get shredded, and I think it's really, really good that they've done that. But then, most importantly, I think this is the biggest topic of debate: taking performance-enhancing drugs if you are a normal person working a 9-to-5 job. Me personally, just before we jump onto you, it's probably gonna upset some people, but if you're not trying to be a professional bodybuilder, trying to compete at the top level, I don't think it's worth it. Obviously, I know anyone I know personally is on performance enhancing drugs. And obviously I don't know any professional bodybuilders, but I just think that there's a certain level where you're just like, oh, you're trying to be the biggest guy in the room, and I just don't think, obviously, it's worth it to that extent, because obviously the people who do it to try and get professional are always going to be the ones who are going to go to the doctors and make sure that their blood works right. They're going to make sure that before they jump on it, that obviously that everything's okay, that they've reached their maximum natural potential, I think it's called. And then obviously that people who aren't going to do that, they're just going to take it to be the biggest guy in the room. But I'm interested to see what you say, because obviously at the moment, I don't think you're going to be there for very long, but you're obviously an amateur bodybuilder at the moment, obviously trying to get to the top. What would you say right now at the moment, if you saw what were your thoughts of some sort of unnatural bodybuilder that you knew who wasn't professional? What would be your thoughts?
So, I mean, personally, I think everybody has the right to do whatever they want with the body. So I'd never take that right away from them. But if you aren't going to compete and you're just, a casual gym goer, you want to get big, why do you need to be on the sauce? You can get big and look great without the sauce. I just think it's a bit too much of a risk, because half of these people who do, like you mentioned, who are not going down the route of competing or professional bodybuilding, they don't know what they're doing, really. It's just like, oh yeah, my mate Dave, sorted me out some test and some tren, and it's getting on the trenbolone for my first cycle. It's just like, man,
the
you
trend
don't
train.
know.
I think I've heard one person say before, that was hilarious. That getting on the trend train, that was hilarious. That.
Yeah, man. They don't do any research. They don't even PCD properly. They don't know anything. And I've had mates from school and other mates who got on the sauce. And they look big in a t-shirt, but they're just blown up, man. They're not cycling properly. They get gyno. They look like shit. Then they come off cycle and they've still got gyno and man boobs and watery bellies. And you need to know what you're doing, bro. You need a coach. You need to take the right precautions. It's not worth it, man. Why do you need to look so big?
And then, like you said, like if you got any aspiration to be professional, what's the point of taking that risk? Because if you're trying to be professional and you're sacrificing time for that, okay, I think obviously I would never do it, like I mentioned in my Instagram story, but sort of it becomes more acceptable when you're trying to get to that professional level and you've done it for so long. But then I think, like I mentioned, like some people just doing it, because I feel more confident, and then I do this and do that, and then they're comparing taking steroids to people. But I do steroids, but then people do cocaine in the nightclub. It's the same thing. Whatever. Like, to be fair, like I think in normal life, like I said, professional bodybuilding is different, but in normal life, I think they're just as bad. I think that you going into a nightclub and doing whatever, popping whatever you want to do, and taking steroids is the exact same thing. They're made in a lab somewhere where you never ever know where it's going to be made from, because it's never going to tell you. And you're probably it's just as big of a risk, because you get a dodgy bit of something, you put an injection in wrong. Obviously, I know a certain amount of bits about the anatomy. You get a little bit of oxygen into your needle, you put it into your vein, boom, artery pops. If it's a main artery, especially where a lot of people I know do it, especially in the thigh. See, we got one of the biggest arteries there. Obviously, I haven't seen anyone put in the neck, but obviously those major arteries, you do it wrong, you're gone. And then obviously, you're like, it was worth it because I was motivated. And then they're like, well, all your family has suffered that now. I just don't think it's worth it. But because we're running out of time, Josh, and I'm really, really excited to see this round. Rapid fire. Dun, dun.
Cap on, then. Let's go.
All right. Yeah, get it on. Put it on metaphorically now. Worst fad in the fitness industry. I know a few which you're not a big fan of, but give me your worst one which you absolutely hate with a passion.
Probably just Bosu balls for balance. Piss off, man. when are you ever balancing on an unstable surface? If you can't
You're walking
balance,
down the street and you got a Bosu ball there. Cool, I've done that in the gym. Let's do it. Yeah.
Literally, if you can't balance on one leg on a stable surface, trying to balance on one leg on a Bosu ball is not going to help.
Oh, Josh sent me a video. Actually, saw it just before that of someone trying to do really heavy dumbbell bench press on a Bosu ball or a fitness ball, whatever it's called, and it popped. And I'm sorry, that was hilarious because he deserved it. What on earth is that for? Core stability. You want to do core stability? Do a Pallof press for core stability. Do a plank.
Literally, just do a one-arm floor press.
Do a one-arm floor press, or do a one-arm bench press on a bench. The bench is there. Bench press. But exactly. Next one. Who in life, we're going to go into life now. We're going to get really deep.
That's what she said.
You know, who's inspired you the most? Who has said, God, you know what, that guy, whether it'll be family, friends, bigger celebrities. Go on. I'm intrigued.
That is, as cliche as it sounds, my mum and my dad, man. My mum with the mindset and spiritual side of things and pursuing your dreams, and my dad with business and showing you can come from, you know, a relatively poor background and make something of yourself. That's enough for me, man. No celebrities, no idols, you know, just two good role models who've brought me up.
Obviously we're focusing on you, but I think that's the exact same thing because I'm only 21 and I can tell you that 90% of my mates who are 21 at the moment, yeah, I'm 21. Yeah, I'm 21. I always forget during this time. I'm 21. I'm 21. And I can tell you for a fact that 90% of my mates have not got the same income as me. And I'm not saying that money is the most important thing, but me having my own income definitely allows my parents to do their own thing. And I think being financially stable is something that Gary Vee talks about, or being, being sort of financially sort of independent. That's the one, sorry. And I think that's so important because then when you're hanging around, because I do this and I do that, paying for yourself is the most satisfying thing in the entire world because I'm like, God, you know, I earned that money and I did it myself. So I think I definitely agree with you on that one. Family, definitely a bigger inspiration, especially my brothers work extremely hard. They will come on for sure. I will force them. So now on a different one, what inspires you every day to wake up at 5 a.m. like you said? What, if you could say it in one word, it's going to be a tough one, what would you say inspires you to get you out of bed rather than hit the snooze button?
Financial freedom.
That's 2 words. Only joke.
Income, man. I'm not going to lie. I love PTing to help people, but it's a business. And if I don't run the business, I don't have food on the table.
Money is the literal income. Money is literally
man.
the key, isn't it? So you need to buy food in the supermarket, pay with money, buy everything with money. And I think that's good to a certain extent because then you're like, oh, to be fair, obviously last month was tough. But can I make more? Can I do better? I think in an indirect way, it actually makes you better of a person. So that's fantastic. I love that. I like how I said this is rapid fire and it's probably longer than the other question.
Yeah, I know.
Nice one. Okay, last 2 questions. Joshy, best piece of advice you have received by anyone?
I'd probably say from my mum when I must have been a young boy, maybe 7, 8, something like that. I remember her coming in to give me a kiss goodnight, and she just gave me this speech of, you know, whatever you want in life, excuse me, visualize it and you'll materialize it. If you want it so much and you can see it and you can feel it and you can think what it's like to have it, you'll get it. Whatever you put your mind to, you can achieve, and that stuck with me. And I've always used that as my fuel for everything I ever want. If I want it, I'll make sure I do everything to get it.
Is anyone else tearing up? I think that was no, honestly, very, very serious note. That was actually, I actually love that. Because then I think nowadays a lot of people with all these social media influencers, oh, you need to be getting out there and earning money and working. I think a certain extent people, because they try and work so soon, or they try and sort of earn money so soon, they actually don't find what their true passion is. And Gary Vee says it a lot. The worst thing I picture is when I'm 82 years old and I've got a list of regrets saying, God, damn it. I wish I could have started my own business. I wish I could have. being a strength and conditioning coach, obviously, I'm very fortunate that I've sort of had those cojones, if you like, to try and start. But I think that's the key, having a little bit of, let's go, let's try it. If it fails, okay, but you tried it. Fail exactly. And learn and live, rather than sort of live and then regret. I think that's a good way. But then the final and best question, which we're going to finish off with every single guest. Best piece of advice for anyone watching, and make it different.
Be yourself. Follow your mind. Don't let anyone tell you can't do something. Don't let anybody try and tell you what path you need to follow. Be authentic. Be honest. Speak your mind. If it offends people, it offends people. But ultimately, be true to yourself, and you'll attract the right people into your life.
You can compare it to a bottle, can't you? If you bottle it up, it's just going to stay there, and it's going to waste your time. So let it out. I think definitely at the start of the Fitzness Academy, we're coming up to 1 year anniversary now. But I think I definitely at the start was very like, if I post this, what's everyone to think about it?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, if I talk about it, I think I would never ever say I would have started up a podcast, I think, like this, and I never posted it, and then I would have shown my face or talked on a story, and then I've done all of that and some. And I think that is definitely one thing which I like, that what you said, is because you are becoming this sort of person that you want to become, rather than what people are trying to make you become. And that is the worst thing I've ever seen in my entire life, because the amount of times which I've said, mate, I've got my best friend, my brother, really, to be honest with you, because I've known him for so long. He's literally starting to become one of the best sports journalists for the Barcelona sort of franchise, and he's got thousands of followers in like less than 6 months on Twitter, which is obviously, like, we're on Instagram, he's on Twitter, and I'm like, mate, you need to use this. It's like, I don't know what will people think, and I love him to bits, but obviously, and he'll I think hopefully this will inspire him, but then he just never sort of thinks anything other than, I don't know what people think. Oh my gosh, I don't want to start this. But I think that's the key. I think being yourself and taking risks, I think, is definitely important. Obviously, considered risks, obviously, but like I did, and it's obviously worked out because we're sat here with Josh, and we've had a fantastic talk. So Josh, my brother, thank you very, very much for coming on.
My man.
You're an absolute legend, and this is definitely not going to be the first time you're going to be seeing Joshua Mark. Thank you very much for listening, team.
Love to be on again, buddy.
Anything to add, Josh?
Just want to say thanks for having me, bro. It's great, and really happy seeing you pursue your dreams, man, and taking different avenues.
Likewise. Big things to come from this boy. Big things to come from this young lad. No, Yorkshire.
From Yorkshire.
Manchester, innit? I don't know how to say it.
Manchester.
Have a great day, team. Thank you, Joshy.
Peace out, brother.
See you soon.
Bye-bye. See you, mate.